Today the conversation is serious. This isn't something you'll easily hear out there. In fact, what I'm about to share with you has been hidden, distorted, erased from the books. And to this day, many people live in the dark simply because they don't know the power they carry within. Maybe you've already felt deep down that some force of yours is being drained every day, a kind of tiredness you can't explain, a disconnection from yourself, like something got lost along the way. And maybe, just maybe, this has everything to do with the way you handle your vital energy. Yes, I'm talking about your most intimate energy, the one no one sees, but that moves everything inside you, the same energy that gives you a spark in your eyes. Magnetism, the power to manifest heightened intuition, but that can also be wasted, fragmented, even used against you without you realizing it. The world today is a field of distractions. It's as if everything were programmed to make you forget who you are, and most of all to stop caring for what is sacred within you. But there is a key, a path the ancients knew, something that has nothing to do with religion or imposed rules, but everything to do with awareness, presence, and deep self-respect. This path is called conscious celibacy. And before you think this has nothing to do with you, take a deep breath. Because we're not talking about forced abstinence or moralism. We're talking about freedom of choice, spiritual empowerment. This video is not about what you should or shouldn't do with your body. It's about remembering that you have the right to choose what to do with your energy. And more than that you have the power to protect what's yours and always has been. Now that you've made it this far, maybe you're already feeling something. This topic stirs something deep inside us, because deep down, we know we feel when something is true. And what comes next will show you why this knowledge was hidden from you for so long. But before anything else, hit the like button so this message can reach other chosen ones. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing how far this message is reaching and who it's connecting with. When we hear the word celibacy, what comes to mind is almost always something heavy, forbidden, religious, a kind of punishment, a vow of suffering. That image of the monk locked away in a monastery, isolated from the world, repressing everything human. But what if I told you it was a trap? That this whole view was designed specifically to keep you away from what actually brings you closer to who you truly are. Look, the celibacy I'm talking about here has nothing to do with forced deprivation. It doesn't come from fear, guilt, or shame. It comes from lucidity, from clarity, from the awareness that there is an energy within you that is rare, precious, and sacred, and that you don't need to go around spreading it as if it were something trivial. That's the part no one talks about. True celibacy is a free choice, a conscious decision, not to let your energy be used by systems that want you weak, distracted, and dependent. Because think about it, the world profits from your lack of self-control, from your addiction, your anxiety, your escape. And do you know what's one of the easiest ways to make a human being forget who they are? Getting them addicted to instant pleasure, making them believe that unless they constantly satisfy their desires, they're missing out. But the chosen ones, they feel something's off in this game. They sense that true freedom is precisely not being a slave to impulse. I'm not saying that desire is wrong, quite the opposite. Desire is natural. It's part of who we are. The problem is when we become slaves to it, when we hand over our creative power to moments that last only seconds and leave behind emptiness. Conscious celibacy invites you to another space, place where you no longer need to distract yourself from yourself, where you start saving what you used to waste. And believe me, I'm saying this from the heart, it changes everything. You start to notice yourself differently, more centered, calmer, stronger on the inside, because what used to leave you uncontrollably now circulates within you and starts feeding your vision, your creativity, your healing, your light. But this choice isn't for everyone. That's why it calls the chosen ones. Only those who feel it understand it. And if you're still here with me, listening this far, it's because deep down, that seed was already inside you, just waiting for the moment to awaken. Now that you understand that conscious celibacy has nothing to do with repression, we can finally step into the most powerful part of it all, the energy you preserve when you choose not to. Surrender to every impulse doesn't disappear. It transforms. It becomes fuel, but not just any fuel. It's as if you light a fire inside yourself, a fire that begins to illuminate everything around you. Ideas come through with greater clarity. Your intuition grows sharper. Your presence begins to impact spaces without you saying a single word. And this isn't magic. It's spiritual physics. What many people don't know, or pretend not to know, is that this sexual energy you carry is the same energy of creation. It's the force that generates life. It's the spark of existence. It's God's energy in motion. When you choose to direct this force inward, instead of spending it unconsciously, your body becomes a temple. Your spirit begins to rise in frequency because it's no longer being pulled downward by unconscious desires, addictions, and distractions. You begin to see yourself through different eyes. You feel silence nourishing you. Peace becomes your home, and the craziest part? You start to notice just how much the world is always trying to pull you out of this state. It's a constant bombardment. Ads, content, music, conversations, all designed to provoke you, to drag you back into a life lived without awareness. But once you awaken, it becomes harder to be deceived. You see the game. You sense the manipulation. And suddenly, the power shifts hands. This is where the chosen ones shine, not because they're better, but because they are present, whole, and in control of themselves. And look, you don't need to be perfect to walk this path. It's not about becoming some enlightened being overnight. It's about returning to yourself and remembering that this energy you carry is not shame, not sin. It is pure life. It's the source of your magnetism, your creativity, your power to manifest. Once you understand this, it becomes impossible to keep living like you used to. And this awakening, my friend, is only the beginning. Have you ever noticed how everything around us seems designed to keep us distracted? It's like there's an invisible but highly effective force trying to pull our attention outward at every moment. Just look at the constant stream of stimuli surrounding us. Social media, ads, breaking news, controversies, influencers, series, everything shouting at once, competing for your mind, for your energy. And in the middle of all that, nobody stops to ask, what is all this doing to my soul? The truth is, the world is afraid of those who start looking inward. The system begins to collapse the moment you stop following the script. Because a person who starts controlling their own energy becomes a threat. A person who chooses to conserve their vital force instead of wasting it on every passing impulse is not easily manipulated. They don't need distractions or instant dopamine. They are self-sufficient, and that bothers the system. This excess of stimuli is not accidental. It's intentional, it's strategic. There is an entire machinery behind it, designed to keep people disconnected from themselves. When someone chooses the path of conscious celibacy, for example, they're not just abstaining from a physical act. They are declaring to the world, I am the guardian of my own energy. And this choice changes everything, because today, more than ever, the true rebellion is self-control. It's self-mastery. It's having the courage to say no to the impulses that try to dominate your mind and your body, to dominate your thoughts, your will, your energy. That is what real spiritual revolution looks like. It's not about becoming a saint or living isolated. It's about being whole. It's about facing your desires with maturity, with awareness. It's about choosing where and with whom your energy will be exchanged, if it will be exchanged at all. Because yes, not everything and not everyone deserves access to your light. When someone begins to respect themselves at that level, the universe feels it. Situations start to change. People around you begin to behave differently. And no, it's not magic, it's frequency. It's vibration. It's you becoming a clean channel, a strong channel, a conscious channel. While some live on autopilot, falling into the traps designed to drain their energy, the awakened rise in silence, in posture, in presence. And the most beautiful part is knowing this is still only the beginning. There comes a point on the journey when something clicks for real. You realize your body is not just flesh and bone. It's a temple, a sacred space where a divine spark resides. And what you do with that temple matters deeply. When you choose to walk the path of conscious celibacy, it's not just about what you're no longer doing. It's about what you start building within yourself. The energy that was once constantly drained now begins to circulate internally. It rises, it transforms, it transmutes. It's what many of the ancients called internal alchemy, a kind of silent spiritual work where matter becomes light and raw instinct becomes consciousness. That's why many who follow this path begin to notice changes, not just spiritually, but physically too. The gaze becomes more intense, more steady. The voice gains weight. The skin, the posture, the way a person enters a room, everything changes. And it's not out of vanity, it's a natural consequence. Because when you honor your body as a sacred sanctuary, it responds, it vibrates at a higher frequency. It aligns with something far greater than the ego. The world tries to teach us that the body is only for pleasure, for consumption, for display. But that's a limited, shallow view. Those who awaken understand the body is a divine instrument, a bridge between heaven and earth. It is where the spirit manifests. And every time someone chooses to keep their energy, instead of spending it hastily and without intention, something magical happens. The soul begins to occupy more space within the body. Intuition sharpens, presence strengthens. You begin to realize that certain situations, certain places, and even some people simply no longer match your vibration. And that is liberating, because it's no longer about controlling yourself through repression or obligation, but through love, through reverence, through knowing the value that exists within you. This is true power, the kind that is born from inner silence, from conscious choice, from surrender to your own light. And it's in this surrender that transformation happens. The energy that used to be spent outward now becomes focus, clarity, healing, and purpose. And from the inside out, a new version of yourself begins to emerge. But of course, only for those who have the courage to hold their own light in a world that insists on extinguishing every candle. When your energy begins to be cultivated internally, something very curious happens. You no longer need to speak so much. Your presence speaks, and it speaks loudly. The silence of someone aligned with themselves has a weight that echoes. It isn't empty, and on the contrary, it carries a vibration that impacts the environment. It's that kind of presence that arrives before the person enters the room and remains even after they leave. This has nothing to do with superiority or arrogance. It's simply the natural result of someone who treats their own energy as sacred, who doesn't waste words, who doesn't get lost in empty talk, and who doesn't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. It's the magnetism of silence, the strength of someone who has learned that not everything needs to be explained, and that the most powerful things often aren't shown, they're simply felt. At this stage, the senses become sharper. Intuition becomes finely tuned. You begin to sense intentions in the air, to feel the density or lightness of a place, to perceive someone's energy just through their eyes. Everything starts to reveal itself to those who are present. And the most fascinating part? The more you protect your own energy, the more it concentrates. It's as if the field around you becomes stronger, clearer, more alive. Some people will be drawn to you without knowing why. Others will feel uncomfortable, and that's natural. Not everyone is ready to handle someone who doesn't live on autopilot, who doesn't give in to every impulse, who doesn't need to show off to feel valuable. This silent magnetism is one of the greatest proofs that the path of conscious celibacy goes far beyond the physical. It reshapes your energy field. It transforms the way you relate to the world. And maybe, just maybe, this is the best kept secret of all. That true influence doesn't come from what you say, but from what you vibrate. When your energy speaks for you, everything changes. Conversations gain depth, connections become more real, and even the things that once seemed difficult begin to flow. Not because life got easier, but because you became centered. And in that state, you don't need to convince anyone, because whoever is meant to feel it will feel it. Some people will look at your choice and simply won't understand. They'll call you weird, too intense, distant. They'll say you're repressing yourself, wasting time, that it's nonsense. But deep down it's because not everyone was born with the same calling, and that's okay. Not everyone came into this life with the mission to guard and transform energy. Not everyone feels that inner urge to withdraw, to quiet down, to reconnect. This is something for the chosen ones, those who, from an early age, feel they don't fit into the molds the world offers. The call to conscious celibacy is something that rises from within. It's not a rule nor a doctrine. It's a silent desire to preserve yourself, to protect yourself, to listen more deeply, to live with more truth. And because of that, it's often a lonely path. While most chase after instant pleasure, validation, distraction, the chosen one is there, seeking depth, wanting to understand what truly matters. They can't settle for the shallow. They can't pretend everything is fine when their soul is screaming for silence. This process can be painful at first. You begin to distance yourself from certain environments, from certain people. Your social circle shifts, and a strange emptiness appears, as if you're losing something. But with time, you realize you weren't losing. You were liberating yourself. Little by little, what once felt like sacrifice becomes strength. What seemed like loneliness becomes communion with the divine. And what once felt strange starts to make perfect sense. The mind becomes clearer. Emotions stabilize. Decisions become more conscious. And most importantly, the soul begins to breathe in relief. The chosen ones are those who can no longer keep sleeping, who feel so in their body and spirit that the time has come to shift frequency. And conscious celibacy is one of the most powerful paths for that. It's not about being better than anyone. It's about honoring the calling, even if no one understands, even if they mock you, even if you walk alone. Because in the end, this choice didn't come from the mind, it came from the soul. When someone chooses this path, to guard their energy, to quiet the body, and listen to the soul, something begins to reorganize inside. Little by little, what used to be mere survival becomes purpose. Life takes on a different texture. Perception expands. It's as if your eyes begin to see beyond the visible. Conscious celibacy opens doors that were locked inside yourself. And what emerges there is not emptiness, but light. A light that doesn't come from the outside, nor from someone telling you what to do, but from your own essence, reminding you who you are. You realize that true wealth doesn't come from accumulating experiences, but from the depth of each one, that you don't need to run or compete, that there is another time, another frequency, and it can only be accessed when you stop distracting yourself and finally begin to truly listen. Being a channel of light on earth is not about going around preaching, nor about isolating yourself from the world as if it were wrong. It's the opposite. It's about being here, the fully present, but with consciousness. It's about choosing every day to vibrate higher. It's about turning small actions into offerings. The energy you preserve, when it's no longer wasted in haste, begins to overflow in the form of intuition, wisdom, presence, and you begin to be guided. Situations shift. People appear, paths open. Everything begins to align, not by chance, but by vibration. You begin to attract what is on the same frequency as you, and what no longer resonates simply fades away. That is the real secret. You no longer have to fight to protect yourself. You just need to keep your light on. Because strong light repels shadow without effort. That's where the greatness of conscious celibacy reveals itself. It's not about absence, it's about presence. It's about being whole. It's about carrying within yourself a peace that doesn't depend on anything else. And when that happens, the chosen one understands that they are no longer alone. Because by lighting their own flame, they begin to illuminate the path for others too, not with beautiful words or promises, but through their example, through their vibration, through their transformation. Being a channel of light on earth means just that, living with awareness, protecting what is sacred, and letting the divine express itself through every gesture, every glance, every silence. And whoever feels that never goes back to being who they were.